Hi everyone, here comes the tricky grammar. I tried to make those sentences as tricky as possible, though I don't think I have put any irregular verbs. I think they are all regulars, but there's Vandertrumps in those sentences. There's also a couple of reflexives, I think, and that's what you should be careful about. So pay really attention before you start a sentence. Ask yourself, what tense am I expected to put to translate that verb? That's really a lifesaver. If you do that each time, that will save you so many mistakes. So take your time, pause the video. I'll mark that in 5 seconds. Okay, let's go. So let me make room for the correction. And here we go. So the first sentence might actually be one of the most difficult because you have to identify the tense properly here. She has been living. It sounds like a perfect past tense, at least, some kind of past tense, but she has been, or I have been doing something for. In French, it's translated by the present tense plus depuis. So here you actually need a present tense to translate she has been living. So here we go for the present. She, elle. Then you need habiter in the present, so no real difficulty once you understand that. You take off the er, put an i. Here, ici. For, depuis. And then 2 years, 2 ans. Be really careful. Try to really spot this one, or if you're in essay writing, he has been doing that for. Just bear that in mind. When you have for a length of time and that kind of construction, you need the present here. Number 2, that was a perfect tense. You took a walk in the evening. Took, that's your perfect tense, but you have a reflexive verb here, so that's where you need to pay attention. You, I wanted the pronoun vous, so vous, it's a reflexive, so I need to turn that into the appropriate reflexive pronoun for vous, which is exactly the same. So just repeat yourself and you're good. Then you need the auxiliary to be for that because it's a reflexive, so it works like a Vandertrump. So vous plus literally you are in the present, so vous êtes. And then promener, that's your normal past participle, so you take off the er and put an i. However, we don't know here if you're talking, for example, to the queen saying, oh, you took a walk in the evening, and in this case you're only talking to one person, or if you're talking to several people. But if you're talking to several people, you need to put an S. You took a walk, so that's done in the evening. There's different ways to do that. Dans la soirée, you might have found other ways to translate that. If you refer to a past event, you could say hier soir, yesterday evening. I don't really mind. What really matters for me is that you got the verb right. Number 3, you have here a near future. They are going to change their mind. To change their mind, all of that, it's this verb. So for once, we simplify the whole expression in French. So they are going. They. It doesn't matter if you pick the feminine or the masculine. I always pick the masculine, so for once I'll go with the feminine. Elles vont, because they are going, that's the verb to go in the present tense if I stop here, even if that forms the near future. So elles vont. And then you need an infinitive. Your reflexive pronoun here is part of the infinitive, so I know you might be tempted to put it here, but no, it comes after. The rule says verb to go in the present tense plus reflexive, so all of your reflexive comes after. Elles vont se raviser, or ils vont se raviser if you used the masculine. Number 4. The snow will melt when the sun will come out. That's all in the simple future. So the snow, it's la neige. Then will melt, that's the verb fondre in the simple future. So the rule says take off the I and put the appropriate ending for the snow. The snow, you could replace it, that expression, you can replace it by it, or if you actually keep the feminine, we would say elle in French, so you can use the third pronoun singular, third person singular, therefore your ending is a. La neige fondra when, quand, the sun, le soleil, will come out. It's an IR verb, so you keep your IR here. And you need the simple future ending for the sun. Once again, the sun, like the snow, it's the third person singular, so you could replace that by il or even ça. That would sound weird, but you could. And therefore, your ending is the same here. Sortira. La neige fondra quand le soleil sortira. Number 5. The dog would bite if he were hungry. He. Sorry, I didn't pronounce the H. You can say it, I guess, in English, but in French, if the dog is a male, we need he. So that's why I put that here. The dog, le chien, would bite. That's a conditional with mordre, which is the verb to bite. So you need that tense in the conditional. Get rid of your final E and then put the conditional ending. Once again, that's the third time now between snow, sun, and dog. You use the third person singular, so that's il. In this case, because dog is masculine. So the ending for il in the conditional is AIT. Le chien mordrait. Here, I'm going to try to not make the same mistakes I made in the last video. Si, il, you can't have, usually you would have si like that, si. But because you have il after, you can't have that. You need to get rid of that I, put an apostrophe, and that's what it should look like. He were angry. I don't know, I can't pronounce H's today. If he were angry, that is the verb être in the imperfect. I'm sure some of you will have made mistakes. It comes with practice, so don't beat yourself up if you have made a mistake here. But he was, literally, if you want the imperfect, il était. And then angry, there's different ways to translate it. The most accurate is this one. But I would accept énervé. That works too. So I don't mind. You could even have agacé, which sounds more like annoyed. But once again, I prefer to focus on the verbs rather than the vocab in those exercises. Number 6. Let me just check that I've got it right. Le chien mordrait s'il était en colère. Yeah, that works. Number 6. The cherry tree used to blossom every spring. Used to blossom, that's an imperfect. So let's go with that. The cherry tree, le cerisier. I didn't give you the gender, but it's masculine. Used to blossom, you need that verb in imperfect. So to form the imperfect, I have to start with the nous form of the present tense. So let's go. Nous form present tense. I get rid of the IR from here. Put the ISS-ONS. Get rid of nous, get rid of ONS, and that's my stem. So here is my stem, and now I want the imperfect ending for the cherry tree. Once again, it's masculine, it's singular. I'm not going to say I used to blossom every spring or you used to blossom every spring, so it's it or he. And you need the ending for il. So that's AIT. Il fleurissait or le cerisier fleurissait. Every spring, there's really one way to translate that, which is tous les printemps. However, if you want to say each spring, which is almost the same, you could say chaque printemps. And in French, this would actually sound a bit more fluent, but the accurate translation for that is actually tous les printemps. So I don't mind which one you used, as long as you have the verb correct. Again, number 7, she had run too fast and had fallen. Had, that tells you that it's a pluperfect that I expect here. Sorry, I shook the table right now. And let's go. So we've got two verbs to put in the pluperfect. She had run. So, oh, I did lie. There is an irregular, and he's right here. Sorry, I just realized that. Well, there you go. You're about to learn about an irregular verb. I didn't mean to trick you. I wanted to put a star, and I forgot. Sorry. So, elle. She had. That part here needs to be in imperfect. So, elle avait. And then, this, usually you would take off your IR and put an I. Here you put a U. Once again, don't ask me why some verbs are irregular, it's the way it is. Now, hopefully you will remember that courir, to run, has an irregular past participle. Elle avait couru. Sorry, if you made a mistake here, it's my fault, kind of, because I told you there were no irregulars. So, elle avait couru too fast, trop vite. You could have trop rapidement, but it sounds less fluent, so I'd rather trop vite here. And had fallen, et. And that's the first trick using a Van der Trump verb. Tomber is a Van der Trump, so here I translated had with avait, the verb to have. Here I need to use the verb être, to be in the imperfect. So you don't really have to repeat the pronoun. Like here you skipped the repetition of she. Same here, you can spare it. However, you need the had with the verb to be, so that's été. And then the past participle for that verb, which is tomber. But we are using a Van der Trump. Our subject is feminine. I need to agree. Put an E at the end. Number 8. After having calmed down, they talked. So, after having calmed down, that's a perfect infinitive. But I have a reflexive verb here. So, après. And I need to stop right here because I have so many things to check. This, the reflexive pronoun here, needs to change according to the subject. The subject of the sentence here is not at the beginning, it's here, and it's they. So when you want to say they, I'm going to do a draft here. If you want to say they calm down in the present or in any tense, that doesn't matter, you say il se calme. That's the present. I don't really care about the tense here. It's just to identify how you change the reflexive pronoun. In this case, it turns out you don't change it. So, after having calmed down, you know now that you have, that's my reflexive pronoun, with an apostrophe because it will be followed by a vowel. It's reflexive, so it uses the auxiliary to be, not to have. So it's être. And then I need to put that verb, that infinitive, I need to turn it into a past participle. So take off the ER. And you could think that you're done, but it's a reflexive, so it needs to agree with the subject. We already said that the subject is they, so we know it's plural. It could even be feminine, but we don't know that. So if it all depends what you put after, really. If we're going to stick with il, so if it's masculine plural, you put an S and you put il after. If you want to translate they with elle, you'd better put an E between that E accent and the S, otherwise you're making a mistake. So then they talked. That's an ordinary perfect tense. There's no trick. I'm checking, but no, there's no tricks. So ils ont parlé. They have talked. You can't skip the have. That may be the only trick if you skip that. They have, ils ont talked. Take off the ER, put the E accent. Ils ont parlé. I'm checking. Yeah, we're good. I don't know why I second guess myself on each sentence today. Maybe because I haven't done that in a while. Number 9. He was looking at his phone while riding his bike. That sentence was kindly inspired to me by a cyclist riding in front of my flat. So thank you, stranger, and stop doing that because that's stupid. Moving on. He was looking at his phone. Was looking, that's an imperfect tense because that's an action, unfortunately in this case, happening over a period of time in the past. So you need to take that verb and put it in the imperfect. As usual, for the imperfect, you need to start with the nous form of the present tense. Nous regards, take off the er, put ons, get rid of ons, get rid of nous. He was looking at his phone, so il. Then you put your stem down, and you need the imperfect ending for il and er verbs, though I think it's the same for all the endings, actually, now that I think about it. So he was looking at his phone. You actually don't translate the at, it's included in the verb here. So il regardait son téléphone. Yeah, I hope you got this possessive adjective right here. Though there was no real trick, téléphone is masculine, so I hope you got it right. While riding his bike. So that's where your present participle is supposed to appear. So while, en, and then riding his bike, that's the expression faire du vélo. So you need the present participle for faire here. You need to start with a new form of the present tense again, but be careful because faire is irregular in the present tense, so you need to know off by heart that we do, present, is nous faisons. Take off ons, take off nous. Put your stem that you have just identified, and then put ant. And you just have to finish with his bike, which is du vélo. And that's it. Il regardait son téléphone en faisant du vélo. Once again, not the best idea. Let me fold that sheet. And we'll move on to number 10, which uses the imperative. So, number 10. Wash the car today. Wash is the verb laver. I want to put that in the imperative, so I need the tu or the vous form of the present tense, except that I don't use the part for tu or vous. So, present tense, I'm going to do a draft here. If I say you wash, present, that's it. I take off the er, put es, but it's an ir verb. Get rid of that s, and once again, don't put the tu. So, wash, lave, the car, la voiture. And today, which is probably one of the most trickiest words to spell in French, aujourd'hui. Now, that applies if you're talking to a singular person, to only one person. If you want to make that plural or more formal, you put a Z. Laver la voiture aujourd'hui. Number 11. There was 2 ways to do that, so I might do both, the easy one and the trickiest one. I must revise that. If, to be fair, at GCSE, you can translate that with je dois, which is a modal verb, followed by an infinitive, réviser. However, I wanted a subjunctive in that sentence, at least here, but you can actually translate that by a subjunctive too. If you use il faut que. I will put my I here, and I will work out my subjunctive here. So subjunctive of revise. I start with the they form of the present tense, take off the ER, put ENT, get rid of ENT, get rid of they, get your stem, write it down, and then put your E ending for the subjunctive. So both mean exactly the same, except that this would get you a lot, the second one would get you a lot more marks in the exam. So if you don't do that, it's right, it's fine, but if you use the second, more marks. No matter if you're at GCSE or A-level, and A-level actually I would strongly recommend the second. So I must revise until I know the rule. So the beginning you have two ways, but after you only have one, so I'm only going to write it once. Until, jusqu'à ce que, and here I have my que introducing the subjunctive, and second time that I tricked you, the verb to know, savoir, is actually irregular in the subjunctive. So, sorry again, il faut que je sache la règle. How do you work this one out? You don't. You have to know it off by heart. So once again, if you made a mistake here, don't beat yourself up, because I had announced there were no irregulars, and I didn't lie on purpose. I just had forgotten. Sorry. Number 12. Past historic, not my favorite. She slept 100 years and was woken up by a prince. So she slept. She. Dormir, take off the IR and put the ending for IR verbs in the past historic, which is IT. Elle dormit. You could say, sounds a bit funny, but you can say 100 ans, or you can add pendant here, pendant 100 ans, but that's fine either way. And that end of sentence is tricky on purpose here, because you have a passive voice in the past historic, so I couldn't make it really more tricky than that here. So you need to translate that bit was in the past historic, but to form your passive voice. She was, that's elle fut, you don't really need to repeat elle once again. Woken up, you need here your past participle for this verb, réveiller. But you're using the passive voice, so that past participle needs to agree with the subject. Elle fut réveillée by, par, and then a prince, it's easy. So, elle dormit 100 ans et fut réveillée par un prince. I hope you did identify the passive voice here. You need to be really careful about that. That's obviously only for A-level students, but yeah, be careful about those. You will have to use them in the essay writing, so just be aware of how to form it. To be fair, I don't think you will ever have to use one in the past historic, but it's always good to practice. Number 13. He will have gone up to the summit before the night comes. Once again here, quite a few difficulties. He will have gone up. Gone up, well, to go up, it's monter. Guess what? It is a van de tramp. So, you have to use the future perfect, but you need the auxiliary to be here. So, il will have, you need to actually write will be. So, il sera. And then, gone up, you need the past participle for that infinitive, so take off the ER, put an E accent. If we were talking about a girl, it would add an E here, but luckily it's masculine, no more tricks on this one. So that's he will have gone up, il sera monté. To the summit, it's like when you say to the cinema. So to, I'm going to write it here. To plus the equals AU. So O, submit is sommet. So this is a basic rule that you see from year 7, but it's still tricky sometimes, so I prefer to remind you the rule here. Before the night comes, before, literally you want to write before that, and if you have that, it means you have a subjunctive after. So avant que la nuit, the night, and then you need your subjunctive. So the verb is arrive, and I need to put that in the they form of the present. So il arrive, take off the er, put ent, get rid of ent, get rid of they. There's no actually real difficulty here. Take your stem here, so that's my stem that I just found, and the ending, once again, night here, it could be replaced by L. The ending for L is I. Il sera monté au sommet avant que la nuit arrive. It might sound a bit funny when I write it like that in English. In French, that makes perfect sense. Number 14, we would have left, but the car was broken down. Broken down is en panne. So that's, even if it looks like a verb in English, there was no trick here. En panne means broken down. The tricks are actually coming before. So we, I wanted the pronoun nous. We would have left. Left is partir. Partir is avant the trump. So once again, I need to use the auxiliary to be and not to have. So I need to say we would be, which is irregular, and that's nous serions, like that. Left. So the past participle of the verb partir. Take off the IR, put an I, but we're talking about a we here, so it's plural. We don't know if it's feminine or masculine. I'm going to keep it masculine, but if it were a group of girls, you would put ES. I'm only going to put an S here. But, mais, the car, la voiture, was, given that this broken down here is en panne, you just need an imperfect here. So was, était, and broken down en panne. There you go. Nous serions partis, mais la voiture était en panne. Little pronunciation tip here. When you have a consonant followed by a vowel, don't forget to link it when you pronounce it, just to make it flow more and to make it sound more fluent. Nous serions partis, mais la voiture était en panne. Even if it doesn't sound natural. To be fair, it takes a lot of practice before it sounds natural, and it comes naturally. Number 15. The jumper was often worn. So the jumper is le pull. I don't mind if you found another word here for jumper, it's not what matters. Was worn often. That's a passive voice, and that's in the imperfect here. So passive voice in the imperfect. Therefore, I need to translate that verb to be in the imperfect tense. Individually, there's no real difficulty. It's just hard to grasp as a whole concept. So, était, you can keep the word order. You could also change it, but I'm going to keep it. Était souvent. And worn, it's the past participle of the verb porter. I pronounce that in the English way, I don't know why. Porter. So you take off the ER, put an E accent, and actually you're done. Le pull était souvent porté. You could also say, in terms of word order, le pull était porté souvent. It doesn't really change anything here. Actually, there's not one way that sounds really more fluent than the other. So either way is fine. Apologies again for telling you there wouldn't be any irregulars. There were only 2, but I can imagine it's a bit annoying to do an exercise thinking it's all good and finding out that there's actually a couple of irregularities. So apologies for that. apart from that, if you have all the rest right, even GCSE students, if you manage to get down here without too many mistakes, it is quite an achievement because I really try to make those exercises tricky. So well done you, and see you for the next video. Bye bye.